Hello, everyone, and welcome to Newcomers World Cup 2026. We're in the middle of warm-ups right now, so you have not missed anything. Today we are watching Canada A, Seed 1, versus Ukraine A, Seed 4. I'm pretty excited for this match. What about you, Ken?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this match too, considering how I think this is going to be a very entertaining match for everyone to watch, considering how both teams consistently for every single round so far have placed in the top three teams, with Ukraine A being the high scoring team last week. So let's see if they can replicate it or if Canada can usurp them this week.
Yeah, both of these teams have been very, very strong in this tournament so far, I have to say. Um, they have some very strong players on both teams. I am curious to see if the SR is about to start getting to some of these players, if some of them are about to start struggling as the map pools start to scale. Have you seen anything interesting with like maybe some teams getting third playered so far?
So far, I have seen a couple teams get third playered where like one or two of the players on their teams are like consistently FCing or like really high acking, and then maybe there's a third player who's maybe not as comfortable as the maps as the other two. So it'd be really interesting to see if that'll affect these two strong teams today, or if that's just going to be the other team so far in semifinals.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like seeing how good these teams have been performing so far, I am not expecting Canada A or Ukraine A to be suffering with that third player syndrome just yet. Um, all of these players have looked super convincing so far in the tournament, so I have to say I'm like super excited to see how they perform. As we get into roles, do you have any ideas on what these teams might protect, what they might ban? What do you think?
I know from the top of my head that Canada has a pretty strong Hard Rock roster with one or two of their players being dedicated Hard Rock players. So it would be pretty interesting to see if they're going to be picking around that today or if they're going to be picking around other slots, considering how both Ukraine A and Canada A are very well-rounded teams. So honestly, the picks could go either way today.
Yeah, I can see that. I will say the Hard Rock pool this week is very challenging. Hard Rock 2 especially. There are some very tricky slider patterns in those that you can just slider break on if you're unfamiliar with the map or if nerves are getting control over you. So if they do go into that Hard Rock pool, I'm curious to see which maps they may go into.
I agree. I agree. Looking at the stats from last week, Ukraine A didn't actually pick any of the Hard Rock slots, whereas Canada A did. So there could be a chance that Ukraine bans the Hard Rock slots for this week. Additionally, they also didn't play any of the free mods last week, so they may not actually be as comfortable on Hard Rock compared to Canada, for example. But they are still pretty contested on all the other picks that they did play last week. So again, it's going to be a very exciting watch today, and hopefully it'll be a close and fun watch for everyone today.
Yeah, I'm not expecting a sweep either way, to be honest. Both of these teams are so strong that I'm expecting both teams to just pick into their what they're confident in and win their picks and try and drag on this match as long as they can. It does look like we have Canada A with first protect, which means Ukraine A will be getting first pick. Um, do you think that Canada A is going to go into one of those hard rock protects, especially since Ukraine A just doesn't seem very comfortable on it so far, looking at the stats?
I think they could go into the Hard Rock protects. Additionally, they may just be protecting something that's not Hard Rock. It could be just be a map that the other team is unable to play. It could be a strategic pick like that, or they could just pick into something that they're just super, super strong at to guarantee a point, but we shall see.
Yeah, I'm always curious to see if teams kind of go into protects that they know that the enemy is weak in, or if they go into protects that they are like 100% sure, even with nerves, even if their power goes out, that they can just win. So I'm really interested to see what Canada A is interested in protecting. While we wait on that, what do you think for Ukraine A? What do you think they might wind up protecting?
I think Ukraine might be leading into more so the Nomad pool, considering how compared to last week, the majority of their plays were on the Nomad pool. Additionally, compared to like round of 16 and like round of 32, most of their plays have been very solid on the no mod pools and less so on the modded slots. So that may be what they're leaning towards today, and then Canada leaning more towards the modded slots if it's going to be going off the trends of past performances.
It does look like Canada A goes into a no mod 6 protect. This is a super challenging map, very, very gimmicky. It's been a huge topic, but this map has also been pooled in 6-digit World Cup qualifiers, so quite the challenging map to see pooled in Newcomers World Cup. But I do believe that Canada A has a strong gimmick roster, correct? So this would be a good protect for them?
I agree too on that. Again, this is going to be a very challenging Nomad 6 considering how it's been pooled in higher level 6-digit tournaments. So for an NWC level match, this is going to be a very, very hard pick to play overall. The protect could just be a tactical protect, so the other team is less inclined to pick it into them, so they don't have to play it, or it could be a very, very strong pick for Canada A. So I'm very excited to see what'll happen. I'm excited to see if the slot will be played at all, actually, because again, it is a very difficult map to play for NWC players. So I am very excited to see how they're able to play it if it is picked.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. I do believe that they will go into it because I do believe they have a pretty strong gimmick roster. I believe Dimples might be their main gimmick player. Not quite sure off the top of my head, but it does look like Ukraine A goes into a DT2 protect, immediately into a Canada A Hard Rock 2 ban. That does not seem like a very popular map this week. It is kind of challenging compared to other Hard Rock 2s that we've seen in the tournament so far, but I am pretty interested to see that DT2 protect from Ukraine A. It is that speed pick this week, so was that something you were expecting?
It wasn't something that I was expecting right off the top of my head, given their previous plays. However, that doesn't mean this is going to be a slot that Ukraine is unable to play, considering how they did protect it, meaning they're probably going to be pretty comfortable on this. So, again, very excited to see how Ukraine A and Canada A face each other this week.
We do see a Fremont 2 ban from Ukraine A, so unfortunately that map is getting banned out once again. It does seem just a little bit too challenging for players, whether that be that they're not used to it on the AR for hidden, maybe they don't like it on easy. It is very small circle size for Hard Rock, so I'm not too surprised to see that ban coming from Ukraine A.
Yeah, considering how, like I mentioned before, Ukraine may possibly be not as comfortable on the modded slots compared to Canada, banning one of the free mod slots does make sense in that sense because not only can they ban a Hard Rock Precision pick for one of their players, they may not be as comfortable on reading low AR or low AR with hidden. So it is definitely going to be a smart protect for their team. And now it is time for us to see how Canada A responds back.
Ukraine A does go into their first pick. They are picking Nomad 2, which is a song that most people, if not all people, should recognize. The words I never said. 2 minutes 35 seconds in length. It is the cut version, 172 BPM. And I have to say, I'm sure this is probably a pretty good pick for them. They seem very confident considering this is their first pick. Do you think that they have like a pretty good tapping roster?
I think they will have a pretty good tapping roster. Again, everybody is able to play most of the slots on both teams pretty well. I will say, the Nomad 2 is AR-88, which is a pretty standard AR. However, compared to the rest of the Nomad pool, besides Nomad 6, it's not AR-9. So possibly could that challenge any of the players today? Could we see any potential unwanted misses or unwanted act drops because of that? Or are both teams going to be incredibly consistent still? So I think that'd be a pretty good watch for this slot.
Yeah, I'm expecting these teams to be able to hold combo. It's just whether or not that they'll be able to act it. I mean, I'm expecting that Ukraine A just wins their pick, but I wouldn't be too surprised if Canada A were to win it. Both of these teams are just so close, and both of these teams have been performing so well in this tournament. But as we get into this pick, I am curious to see which team is gonna pull ahead with maybe like an early combo lead, maybe an early act lead.
Yeah, we shall see. Like you mentioned, AC is going to be a very big determining factor for all teams, not just these two teams going into the later rounds. Considering how it is semifinals right now, so for NWC level players, they may not be able to hold as consistent AC as previous rounds. So again, managing the difference in SR versus AC is definitely going to be something that all teams have to consider going forward now.
Already getting into the first bit of Ukraine A's first pick, there is that AC lead over on Ukraine A with Dinozev holding an SS currently, Wangward holding a 99%, Shifter holding that SS. That SS is being matched by Vunistic, who did just drop it, but that does mean that that early score lead is going over to the side of Ukraine A.
Yeah, going about like a quarter into the map so far, neither team seems to be particularly struggling on this pick. Everybody's holding very solid AC. However, the AC advantage is going towards the side of Ukraine A with a 99, a 97, and a 96. Oh, Pocket Crumb just broke, followed by Unistic as well on the Canada A side, traded out immediately by Dinozev. So the first half of this map is going to be slightly unexpected and unfavored for both teams, considering how they were leading into this slot with the act that they had.
Shifter does drop that combo as well, so now there are only 2 full combos left in the lobby, one on the side of Canada A and one on the side of Ukraine A. Wangward and Mist Waves are now in their own 1v1, both of them trying to hold on to these full combos. Wangward does have the score advantage with the higher accuracy. Pocket Crumbs is struggling a little bit, dropping streams of 100s. Vunistic does drop an entire stream, and so far it does not look like that is matched by anyone over on the side of Ukraine A. We are now going into the last quarter of the map with almost 300 score lead on the side of Ukraine A. This looks like a very convincing first pick from them.
Yeah, right now, Wingward and Mistwaves are the only 2 remaining full combos on the map. However, the supporting combo is just not there on Canada's side compared to Ukraine's side. So this looks like it will be a very comfortable first pick win on the Ukrainian side. So we shall now see how Canada decides to bounce back. Are they going to continue picking into the no mod pool, or are they going to pick into one of the modded pools to try to catch Ukraine off guard?
At the end, we do unfortunately see Wangward drop that full combo and Shifter drop that supporting combo at the end of the map, but it does not matter. Ukraine A pulls ahead on their first pick with about 237k score lead. So despite not any of their players being able to hold that full combo, Canada A just did not have that supporting combo and were struggling a little bit on the accuracy. So I'm curious to see what they go into in order to make sure that they don't get a break point over to Ukraine A. They want to pick something that they're super confident in, something to keep those morals up, something that they know that they can win so that they can continue ahead in this match without being a point below Ukraine A. What are you thinking? What do you think that Canada A might look into going into? I don't think that they would go into an early protect pick here. But if they do feel confident on that gimmick, Hidden 2 isn't quite reading, but it is still that lower AR, and if Ukraine A isn't comfortable on low AR or Hidden, then maybe that could be something that they look into picking?
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think Canada A are going to immediately go into the gimmick picks. It's probably going to be something that they're going to pick later on into the match, once they like ease into the match a bit more. As you can see, they immediately pick Free Mod 3, which is going to be some of the modded slots that the Ukrainian side may not be as comfortable on compared to Canada. So it'll be very interesting to see how this goes.
Excuse the technical difficulties, Ukraine A does have a point if our streamer would lock in and give them their point and do the stream ping so that people know we are live. But aside from that, it does look like Canada A is going into Free Mod 3. You did say that Ukraine A doesn't have a very confident Free Mod looking at the stats, right?
Yeah, they may not be as comfortable into the free mods based on stats. However, that could change here in match. They could obviously win this pick still against Canada if every single member decides to play out of their minds or as consistent as they could. However, this is a swing alt free mod 3, so this could be a more volatile pick for everybody in this match because nerves are definitely something that both teams are going to have to contend for, and on the flow aim and the swing alt maps, sometimes players could be shaking. They could shake off a slider, they could shake off a pattern or two. So this is something to have to consider going into this pick. Hopefully neither team will have that issue.
We have Avocado on the hidden, matched by Dinozev. We have Dimples on the easy, matched by Arknight, and we have Lice on the Hard Rock, matched by Pocket Crumbs. So I'm very excited to see which of these teams pull ahead. I do know that Dimples is known for being very comfortable in the easy, so I'm curious to see if Arknight is going to be able to match that score that Dimples is going to be able to put out. Currently holding that SS, it does look like Arknight is struggling a little bit on their accuracy, pulling it back up into 97 as we get started on the first section of the map. Lice and Pocket Crumbs on the Hard Rock, both of them struggling very early on this Hard Rock. Arknight does miss, which is not matched by Dimples. Avocado and Dinozev are very close matching their scores right now. Avocado does have the accuracy lead, and Dimples on the easy does miss. So that easy combo on both sides is gone. But so far the other modded players are holding onto their combos. It's just a matter of accuracy right now. The score lead is still over on the side of Canada A, but it isn't moving too much because of these accuracies and the fact that both easy players did drop their combos both below or very near 200 combos, so it doesn't matter too much right at the start of this pick. That score lead is slowly but steadily growing, now at almost 20k. Pocket Crumbs still on that 81% accuracy, now matching Lice. Dinozev on 97% accuracy, matching Avocado. So right now, it's currently just a bit of a combo lead for Arknight on that easy above Dimples, because Dimples did miss a little bit later. And as I say that, Arknight misses over on the easy, so that score lead is definitely going to start growing over to the side of Canada A. As I say that as well, Dimples does miss on that easy, so once again, both players on the easy mods for Canada A and Ukraine A have reset their combos, both of them fighting to build up those recovery combos. Avocado and Dinozev on the hidden, as well as Pocket Crumbs and Lice on that hard rock, all of them still holding onto their combos going into the first break of this. That does mean that the players have to avoid nerves, as Pocket Crumbs immediately misses after the break on that hard rock. So far, it does not look like it's being matched by any players over on Ukraine A, which means that that score lead is swapping over and going to grow very fast. Avocado and Dinozev still holding onto their full combos, both of them still with 97% accuracy, and as we get into the last half of the map, we are looking to make sure that these easy players on both sides do build up their recovery combos. That score lead is slowly but steadily growing over on the side of Ukraine A. Lice and Pocket Crumbs still matching one another in accuracy, and it does look like that Dimples has a much better accuracy right now than Arknight over on the side of Ukraine A. It's just the fact that both of them have been missing very close to one another. Pocket Crumbs is slowly building up their recovery combo, but with Dimples missing once again, it does not look like it is being matched by Arknight this time around, so that score lead is growing ever steadily over to the side of Ukraine A. Lice does miss on that hard rock, which is going to be in Canada A's favor, but with such a small sliver of the map left, it may not be enough. Dinozev does not look like that they want to drop. Dimples and Lice miss again. Avocado still holding onto that full combo as well, but without any supporting combos, it just does not look like that this is going to be going in Canada A's favor. 226k and counting, and as the map finishes up, Dimples and Arknight will drop their combos once again, but this will be a point for Ukraine A.
Yeah, apologies on the difficulties earlier. But I have now just rejoined. Canada A does win their first pick in the free mod 3.
Ukraine A. Canada A lost their pick.
Or Ukraine A just wins their first pick in the... My bad on that.
That is an immediate break point for Ukraine A, now up 2-0 on Canada A and going into their own pick. So I'm curious to see what they might go into. I'm not expecting a protect pick at all, especially that they're ahead right now and they have no fears of it being banned. So what do you think that they might go into, Ken? What do you think that they might be feeling right now? What do you think that they might be feeling that they're strong in right now?
Honestly, Canada A could lean into one of the modded picks again to see how they fare against Ukraine. However, considering how they just lost one of the free mods, it could also make sense that they go into the no mod pool so they don't have to play a modded pick immediately, which I was correct on considering how Canada or
Ukraine A goes into that no mod 4 pick, so they're going into that no mod tech. This is an absolute banger in this map pool. 2 minutes 43 seconds long, 128 BPM. I'm curious to see how these teams kind of do on this like slider tech, mech tech style map. It's very easy to slider break, it's very easy to miss a slider head. If they're not comfortable on some of these weird slider patterns, then there could be some very easy slider breaks. Most of these sliders do not have ticks in them, but you do still need to hit those slider ends.
Yeah, if my audio is working right now, the Nomad 4 pick is a very deceptively easy looking map considering how it's not too difficult in terms of the rhythm or anything. However, it is a very slider heavy map, so following slider ends is going to be very important over here on this map. So with nerves and everything factoring in, it could be an issue for the teams, or it could just be a non-issue if the players all decide nerves don't matter, we're gonna FC regardless.
Yeah, at this stage in the tournament, we are starting to get a little bit silly with slider velocity. So you can't just come into these matches and sight read. We haven't been able to do that for weeks now, but you can't come into these matches and sight read, especially not these Nomad 4s with the amount of slider velocity shenanigans that we are now pulling. So I'm curious to see if Ukraine A is going to pull ahead with their point, or if Canada A can take this point and hopefully get themselves a point on the board as we do go into this Nomad 4 pick on the side of Ukraine A.
Yeah, it is definitely going to be a very hard map for everybody to act, considering how not only is the slider velocity very silly on this map, there's also 128 BPM, meaning some level of finger control is going to be required, since it is an awkward, non-standard BPM. However, going into the beginning of the map, no players on either team seems to be struggling, except for Mistwaves, who just broke right now. Sorry for the caster curse.
Yeah, with that break over on the side of Canada A, that is going to get that early score lead going over to the side of Ukraine A, especially with the accuracies over on that side. Avocado with a 96, 92 on Pocket Crumbs, and Dino Zev with the highest accuracy over on Ukraine A misses. So that's going to halt their score advantage for now, but unless Canada A misses, unless Ukraine A misses, then that score lead is still going to stay over on the side of Ukraine A, especially with their accuracy advantages.
Yeah, despite the early break from Dinozev, the act on the Ukraine side is just much more stronger and much more comfortable compared to the Canada A side. So unless there's either major breaks on the Ukraine side, so far, about halfway into the map, it is going to be a Ukraine pick. However, things could change on the second half of the map, considering how the slider velocities in the latter stage of this map is going to be very difficult, especially with Nerves contending on multiple players holding FCs on the Ukrainian side. So let's see if they can continue sticking with their FCs or if it's going to get to them.
Mistwaves has built up a great recovery combo with a 94% accuracy, matching that of Pocket Crumbs with 94% accuracy, Avocado with 96% accuracy, but Dinozev has a 98 with Arcanite on that 96 and Shifter on that 93. So that score lead is slowly still growing on the side of Ukraine A and will continue to do so as Mistwaves drops that recovery combo. With Avocado and Pocket Crumb still holding their double full combos, it's just not enough. Despite Dinozev missing, there may just not be enough time at the end of this map with Arcanite and Shifter still holding their full combos as well. As I say that, Arcanite does drop that full combo, which is going to make that score lead slowly go over to the side of Canada A as Shifter drops the full combo as well.
There's just breaks coming from both sides in this last section of the map. Arcanite breaking again, Shifter breaking again.
That score lead is shooting so fast over the side of Canada A. Is there enough time in the map? And there is! Canada A is going to come ahead with this pick. Ukraine A's pick going to the side of Canada A. Ukraine A unfortunately falling apart at the end of that map. That was not what I expected at all.
Yeah, extreme roller coaster of emotions at the end of the map, considering how the Ukrainian A side was just so much more comfortable at the beginning of the map. However, at the very last minute, the score decided to shift over to the Canada A side, which again is just stuff that you can see on harder maps like this, in which nerves are definitely a deciding factor. Could it be possibly for Shifter, Arcanite, and Dinozev that they were looking at their scores, they were holding an FC, but however, once it got to the last 80% of the map, the nerves might have just got to them, so they broke on parts they decided not wanting to break on, and then Canada decided to cash in on that opportunity, and they won it at the last minute.
Dinozev did have very comfortable accuracy, just had some very unfortunate slider breaks in that map because they did have 0 misses. But with Canada A winning that pick, they are going back into their own pick, so I'm curious to see what they might be picking here. They do need to pick something that they know 100% that they're going to win, not only because they want to get tied with Ukraine A at this stage, but if they win, then they do get the advantage of having that first ban in the upcoming ban phase. So, do you have any thoughts on what they might be going into?
What they might be going into, I'm not fully sure right now. However, this pick right here is definitely going to be very, very important for the Canada side, because not only do they want to be tied going into the next ban phase, you do not want to have Ukraine being 3-1 up right now. And otherwise, the momentum or the emotions for this match might shift towards a state that they don't want it to be in. And then Canada A, however, picks into the Hard Rock 1, one of the modded slots right before the ban phase, potentially so that they could pick it now so one of the Hard Rocks isn't going to be banned later.
This is a little bit on the longer side at 3 minutes 44 seconds long and is a little bit higher on that BPM at 210. It does have some sets of triples in there, but it is kind of a bit of an easier map to act if you are comfortable on that hard rock. So I'm looking to see hopefully some triple full combos from Canada A with some high accuracy, but I'm also curious to see if maybe Ukraine A might be able to match that if Canada A are able to do that. So I'm definitely hoping for Canada A that they win this pick, but if Ukraine A is comfortable on that hard rock, then they may be able to take this pick away from them.
Yeah, I agree. On paper here, Canada A does seem to be the more comfortable Hard Rock roster. However, again, the match so far has been very good on the Ukrainian side, considering how they are up 2-1 right now, and considering how last match Canada A decided to win at the very last minute, they might have more confidence going into this slot compared to Ukraine. However, do not discount Ukraine for this slot. They are one of the top performers so far of NWC.
As we go into this Hard Rock 1 pick on the side of Canada A, we have Avocado, Pocket Crumbs, and Mist Waves over on the side of Canada A, with Shifter, Lice, and Dinozev over on the side of Ukraine A. So far, it looks like all of the players seem pretty comfortable on it, with Mist Waves on a 96% accuracy, Pocket Crumbs struggling a little bit at 94, Avocado at 97, Shifter at 93 over the side of Ukraine A, with Lice dropping that SS finally, now at 97% accuracy, with Dinozev at 94. So right now, with the accuracy lead, that score is just barely going over to the side of Canada A.
Yeah, it is just barely going over to Canada A right now. Avocado holding the highest act in the lobby so far. Everybody else sitting around the 93 and 94% mark. So the players on the Canada A side are probably more comfortable. However, the early score lead is going to the side of Ukraine A. So if Bancho could decide to load, we could see that this match is not going to be a very easy slot for either teams, considering how strong everybody is. So nerves are definitely going to be a deciding play factor here.
Right now, that score lead just can't figure out which side it wants to stay on. The fluctuating accuracies for these teams is just making it so that neither team can really get ahead of the other. The spinners aren't long enough to get a large amount of bonus score on, and as they go into this first break, both of these teams are going to see how close the score currently is. So they need to make sure that they don't get any nerves going into about the middle of the map right now. And that score lead still is just flipping back and forth as these teams just trade accuracy back and forth.
Yeah, like you said, nerves are definitely going to be a deciding factor here, considering how everybody is still holding full combo right now, halfway into the match, and the score lead has not gone higher than 10,000 on either side yet. So as we get into the later stages of this map, we could possibly see some nerves getting into play. There might be accidental misses on either teams, but only time will tell so far.
It looks like none of the players have some very major shakes, so none of these players really need to seem to worry about shaking off of notes on this hard rock. Still, all of these players holding their full combo, and as I say that, Avocado on the side of Canada A does drop that full combo, which is going to make that score lead still bounce back and forth between these teams, despite that miss not being matched on the side of Ukraine A. And as I say that, Shifter and Lice over on the side of Ukraine A drop those combos. So now it is currently 2 full combos on the side of Canada A versus Dinozev soloing that full combo over on the side of Ukraine A.
Yeah, the score leads are still going to be... Oh, Ukraine A decided just to break again, so now the score lead will be shifting over to the Canada side by a large margin, considering how before each teams were only separated by a couple thousand points each. However, now it is eclipsing, about to hit the 3-digit stage for the Canadian side.
Dinozev still holding onto that full combo, but unfortunately both Mist Waves and Pocket Crumbs over the side of Canada A are. Avocado now has 300 recovery combo and counting, with Lice almost matching that, but Shifter did unfortunately miss once again, so is having to start over, now reaching 200 with their recovery combo. We're now getting into the last section of the map, with the score lead now going over to the side of Canada A at 200k and counting, so I don't think there is enough time at the end of this map, even if Canada A were to break right now. So this does look like it was a very good pick for them.
Yeah, unfortunately for the side of Ukraine A, despite Dinozev holding the full combo, unfortunately he just doesn't have enough supporting combo matched by Canada's A's double FC right now. So this pick is looking like it'll go over to Canada A. It's going to be a very good pick, like Six said, for them. And now going into the ban phase, the second ban phase, we shall see what each team decides to do.
With a 2.5 mil team score, that is very impressive and does win the point, but we can't bat an eye at Ukraine A's still 2 mil team score on a Hard Rock 1 in semifinals. This is how you know that both of these teams are very strong. Dinozev with a 96% S rank, along with the entire lobby having S ranks, with only the misses being slider breaks on any of these players that had dropped in their combos. So, very impressive from Dinozev, Mistwaves, and Pocket Crumbs full comboing this Hard Rock 1.
Yeah, considering the length of this Hard Rock 1, holding FC is definitely not going to be an easy task. Even for the remaining players that didn't hold an FC, none of them had any big misses. There were only slider breaks. So looks like so far everybody is super comfortable on the Hard Rock 1 slot. So going into the remaining picks and bans, we shall see if any players are going to lean more towards the Hard Rock slot in terms of Hard Rock 3, or if they're going to go into the free mod slots to continue having that comfort on Hard Rock.
It does look like that Ukraine A is going into their first ban and banning Hidden 2, so we will not be seeing that map. And I'm not too surprised. It isn't very gimmicky this week. It is, most of the Hidden 2s in this tournament so far have been kind of more tapping heavy, maybe a little bit more on the aim, so none of them have been really reading heavy. But now we go into Ukraine A's second ban, so what do you think that they might look into removing from this pool?
So far, considering how Canada has banned Hidden 2, maybe they are going to continue picking off of the more gimmicky or the more tapping side of the remaining slots. Or considering how they were very comfortable on the free mods, right now they were very comfortable on the Hard Rocks. They may potentially ban a free mod to stop Canada A from picking into their Hard Rock comfort, which does seem to be the case considering how Shifter just banned free mod 1.
Yeah, you can tell that they just are not very, they just do not like the free mod pool, with them being 2 of the bans. And I understand it with the way that Canada A had gone into the free mod 3 pick. So not too shocked to see them going into their second free mod ban, but Ukraine A does look like they are instantly going into a Hidden 1 pick.
Yeah, considering how the Hard Rock 1 that was just played was one of the longer maps in the pool, then banning free mod 1 does make sense because it is the longest map in the pool behind just the tiebreaker. So potentially they do not want to deal with nerves or holding an FC that long into a map. So it is very understandable that they decided to ban free mod 1 and go right into the Hidden 1, which is a slightly shorter map.
It's almost 3 minutes long at 2 minutes 55 seconds, and it is a little bit on that slower side with 97 BPM. You kind of have to make sure that you don't just fall asleep during this map. It's not boring by any means, and in fact is actually quite an enjoyable Hidden 1, but the song isn't very energetic, and you need to make sure that you're not just like turning your brain off in this map, because as the map gets into the later stages, you have to make sure that you're hitting the notes underneath the slider ends. You need to make sure that you're not accidentally over-aiming these slider heads. So I am curious to see how well Ukraine A does on this pick.
Yeah, like you said, going to the later stages of the tournament, these maps are getting harder and harder. So it is going to be very important for both teams right now not to have any unwanted misses. They need to keep their minds very sharp right now and be more focused into the map, because like you said, although this map isn't anything too difficult in terms of the patterning or the reading, it is not as energetic of a song compared to the rest of the map hole. So it is definitely something they have to be very attentive to so they don't like accidentally fall asleep or they don't accidentally drift off and get an unwanted break.
As we go into this first hidden 1 pick from the side of Ukraine A, there is I wouldn't imagine any kind of like early accuracy lead. The beginning is very much like free combo, free accuracy. You just need to make sure that your nerves aren't making you hit early on hidden, which may normally be the case, as Turbo 3 on the side of Canada A does have an early miss. It was below 100 combo, so it won't matter too much, but it does look like the accuracy over on the side of Ukraine A is going to get them that early score lead, as Turbo and Pocket Crumbs are on the lower end of the accuracy in the lobby with 93-94%.
Yeah, with the early active advantage going into Ukraine A, they have a very strong start so far. All members are currently still holding, or two of the members are currently still holding full combos. However, Arknights is still there with a very solid supporting combo, only about 30-40 notes behind and still super high AC. However, Pocket Crumbs on the side of Canada A just decided to break, which is very unfortunate considering how he had one of the higher accuracies on their team. So this point is going to be slowly drifting more and more to the Ukraine side, and Canada will just have to continue holding their combos and just hope and pray that one of the members on the Ukraine side is going to break unwantedly.
And as you say that, Dinozev with 99% accuracy does drop on the side of Ukraine A, so one of those combos that they wanted to break does break, and is not currently matched by anyone breaking over on the side of Canada A. Pocket Crumbs is building up their recovery combo. Turbo 3 does break a little bit after Dinozev. Dinozev is starting to get that recovery combo built up as well, but that score lead is still staying over on the side of Ukraine A, mostly in part to these accuracies. A Shifter on 99%, Dinozev pulling himself back up to a 99%, with Arknight on that 98%. So this accuracy on this map is definitely leaning into Ukraine A's favor.
Yeah, definitely a very unfortunate break by Turbo 3 considering how he was building up a nice solid supporting combo. Pocket Crumbs on the Canada A side is building up a very solid supporting combo considering the break earlier. However, the AC advantage and the combo advantage is still just going on the side of Ukraine A, and unless anything major happens, this could possibly just be a pick that's guaranteed for them already considering how the score difference is already about to eclipse 300k.
There is a miss over on Mist Waves on the side of Canada A, which is just going to make that score lead shoot ever higher to the side of Ukraine A, as it looks like none of those full combos on the side of Ukraine A are looking to miss. Arcanite did miss very early into the map with a triple break over on the side of Canada A, which is only matched by one player on the side of Ukraine A on Shifter, so that just basically solidifies the point for Ukraine A as we go into the last section of this map. The map is basically over with only these long sliders at the end, so unfortunate that we did see a triple break on the side of Canada A.
Yeah, very unfortunate, but Arknights is over here holding a full combo to the end of the maps, followed by very solid scores and accuracies by the rest of Ukraine A. Shifter missing on one of the last sliders, which is probably very unfortunate for him. However, despite the loss to Canada A on this pick, they were still pretty comfortable AC-wise on the hidden one. Could potentially just be nerves, or it could be them not being as comfortable compared to Ukraine A, leading to their unwanted misses. However, going into the next pick phase, Canada A may be picking into one of the different slots. They just lost on the hidden slot, so maybe they're going to go into the Nomad, DT, or Hard Rock slots. However, so far this match has been very even and very contested between the two maps, or two teams.
Yeah, it's been a super close match so far, so I'm super curious to see what Canada A is planning on picking into. I am surprised to say that we haven't seen any DT picks so far. Canada A may be looking into that protect from Ukraine A, so not really feeling comfortable going into the DT pool, knowing that Ukraine A might feel a little bit more comfortable than them on it. I am curious to see if maybe they're considering their protect at this stage as the match gets later and later. At some point, you do need to make sure that you pick your protect without before the match ends, and you don't go into your own protect. So I'm curious to see if they wind up dipping into the Nomad pool once again. I'm not expecting them to go into that hidden 3, and I would be kind of surprised if they do go into the DT pool.
Yeah, I'll be very surprised if they pick a hidden 3 considering how they just lost on the hidden slot. Be also very surprised, like you said, if they go into the DT pool considering the protects on the Ukrainian side. So are we going to see another Hard Rock pick here, or are we going to go into the Nomad pool, potentially the Nomad 6 that Canada decided to protect? Like I mentioned at the start of the match, potentially this Nomad 6 is either something they're super strong on that they're saving towards the later stages of the match, or it could just be a map that they're not super comfortable on, so they're picking it as their protect to deter Ukraine A from picking it.
And it looks like no matter if Ukraine A protected DT2 out of baiting them into believing they're good at DT, or if it's a map that they do believe that they can win. Canada A is going into this DT3. This week it is not quite finger control, I would say. It's definitely more like funny sliders. Um, but I am really interested in this pick from them. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think it'll be definitely very interesting to see the DT slots this week, considering how every single DT slot from DT 1 through 3 are going to be AR 9.7 now, since the SR is jumping higher in the tournament. So considering how Canada A is definitely very comfortable on the Hard Rock AR 10, potentially this is something they are going to lean into with their comfort on higher AR reading. However, that's not to discredit Ukraine at all, considering how they are also a very solid DT and Hard Rock team. Uh, despite them, um, despite despite them being not as strong as the Hard Rock roster, they were still very solid on the Hard Rock one earlier.
Yeah, depending on these teams, these players might be putting in extra practice. So even on like maps that they may not be normally comfortable on, if you want to win, sometimes you just have to get a player, sit them down, and tell them practice it until you're good at it. So we might be seeing some teams that typically aren't super awesome at some of these picks just begin popping off as they make sure that they have dedicated players practicing these maps. It looks like we're waiting on these teams to get in their third players. It looks like they do get in Miss Waves on the side of Canada A and Wangward on the side of Ukraine A. So we should be going into this Canada A DT3 pick soon.
Yeah, very excited to see how this goes, considering how, like you said, in the later stages of these tournaments, people are going to be practicing more and more skill sets that they're not comfortable with. They may not be able to get away with combo gaming or like mashing through slots compared to like the earlier stages. So we could see some pop-offs right now, or we could also just see some relatively lower scores compared to previous slots. So again, it's going to be very interesting to see how this goes.
As we get into this pick with DT, this is 258 BPM, 2 minutes long, so not terribly long, and very dangerous if these players miss in the middle, which is very possible. Going
Yeah,
into these sliders, it's a very easy place to drop accuracy, but so far they seem very comfortable, and no one misses on the double, so people have been practicing this map, and as I said, that Wangward does miss early, but that Squirrely doesn't seem to be shifting over too much, with accuracies definitely coming in this early into the map.
Yeah, if you are going to miss, arguably it is a lot better to miss in the beginning stages of these shorter maps. As I say that both Wingward and Proctor Crumbs decide to trade, you do not want to be breaking in the middle of this map, followed by another break from Lyces. Since it is a shorter pick, you do not want your score to be eclipsed by an accidental miss in the middle.
That miss over the side of Lice was not matched by anyone over on Canada A, which means that that score lead is now going up into 100k over to the side of Canada A. It looks like these players aren't really dropping too much accuracy on these sliders, and no one is getting caught up on these doubles that are in the middle of these slider patterns. So you can tell that these teams definitely put in the practice on this map, and none of them are deterred by the higher AR, as Avocado does miss and is not currently traded over by anyone on the side of Ukraine A, and they do have some very good recovery combos building, but they do have that 200k score lead over on the side of Canada A, and it's going to stay that way with Lice missing and dropping their combo once again.
Yeah, very unfortunate miss by Lice over there, considering how DinoZev is still holding FC and Wingward has a very nice supporting combo right now. On the side of Canada A, Miss Waves is also still currently holding FC as well, followed by another solid recovery combo from Pocker Crumb. So that miss from Lice is definitely going to be very unfortunate for the side of Ukraine, because that was the only chance for them to take this pick back. However, going to the later stages of this map, neither side appears to be breaking, so this pick will probably go towards Canada A.
The great recovery combos built up on the side of Canada A and their higher accuracies does mean that they do win their pick, and unfortunately Lies missing once again on the ending of the map. It is a little bit tricky, but Canada A will be winning their DT3 pick, so despite me being originally shocked that they did go into the DT pool, it wound up being a very good pick for them. Do you have any thoughts on what Ukraine A might be going into now?
Yeah, considering how Ukraine A did protect the DT2, I was thinking that that was something they were going to pick eventually. However, considering how Canada A just won on the DT3 and comfortably at that, it may not be an option that Ukraine A are going to go for.
It looks like they're immediately going into that no mod 5. So going into the speed pick and the no mod pool, it has some of these like higher BPM bursts that these players need to hit. Very easy to drop accuracy on, and if these players aren't comfortable on this BPM or may not be comfortable on these like longer burst style maps, then it's very easy for a team to pull ahead just based on accuracy alone. But if you have players that are able to just mash through and hold on to their combo, then that could also be in your favor.
Yeah, for the Ukrainian side, considering how they did protect DT2, picking Nomad 5 right after might be a very strategic pick because it's still going to be similar-ish in terms of mapping style and slot styles. However, considering how they just lost the DT3 against Canada, it is definitely going to be a more smart pick to still pick something that they're comfortable with relatively. However, it's not going to be something on the back of their minds considering how they just lost a DT slot. We don't want to lose another DT slot, so picking the Nomad 5 is definitely a very smart pick here, I think.
Yeah, both of these teams are still sitting on their protects, so I'm expecting to see these protects getting picked very, very soon. Um, it looks like Ukraine A has pulled Arknight, Shifter, and Dinozev into the lobby, with Canada A having Turbo and Mistwaves in their lobby and still waiting on the third player. So I'm curious to see if it's maybe someone's practicing it, maybe they're just waiting on a player that like needed to stand up and shake off their nerves, and it looks like Pocket Crumbs is coming in to be their third player on Canada A.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned standing up and shaking themselves off their nerves, perhaps, because this is a very, very close and contested match so far. Both teams are very strong teams in this tournament. Either one of them could go on to the finals or the grand final stage. So shaking off nerves right now is definitely something that's going to be very important for them, considering how they're still tied this late into the match.
Looks like we're going into this No Mod 5 pick. 3 minutes 25 seconds long, so not too terribly long, but also not a short map at 212 BPM. AR 9.1, so a very comfortable AR for most, if not all of these players, I have to imagine. Um, Typically, most maps that these players are going to be comfortable on are around that 9 AR. Um, at the beginning of this map, there is a long spinner, so if a team is great at spinning, they do get that early bonus, but the beginning of the map is a little bit easier. You just need to make sure that you don't drop accuracy randomly on one of these sliders or one of these random notes. It looks like all of these players definitely seem very confident so far, all of them getting that free accuracy, getting that free combo. We're not seeing any of these longer bursts yet. We are slowly getting ourselves closer and closer to the key eye, where we're going to start seeing some of these burst patterns. The score lead is not deciding which side it wants to go to, as the accuracies are 99, 96, and 96 over the side of Ukraine A, with like a 98, 100, and 94. And as I say that, Mistwaves does drop the SS and their combo at the same time as on that first burst. So this early score lead is going to be swinging over to the side of Ukraine A, and that miss is matched by Arknight.
Yeah, not something both teams want to be doing right now, considering how they are just about to get into the burstier DI sections. Holding a combo would have been very nice as a confidence boost going into that. However, the map is still not over yet. It's not even halfway done, and both sides are still holding very solid Akin combos. But as I say that, Pocket Crumbs on the Canada A side decides to break, and the score lead is going more and more towards the sides of Ukraine A right now. However, it's still not large enough to be a worry.
It does look like the Mistwaves break was Bancho, so there is still two full combos on the side of Canada A, with Pocket Crumbs building up their recovery combo, Arcanite also building up their recovery combo as well. But that accuracy on Dinozev at 99 is definitely keeping that score lead over comfortably on the side of Ukraine A.
Yeah, very strong performance by Dinozev on this map so far. Having a 99% full combo is not an easy task to do with this many bursts and sliders. So it is very impressive coming from him. Arknights and Pocket Crumbs are building up very solid recovery combos despite breaking earlier. Turbo 3, however, on the side of Canada A just broke, which is not something that Canada wants right now.
The break is traded by Arcanite, but that is not the combo that they're looking for. Arcanite does drop their recovery combo once again, but Canada A was really, really hoping for one of those full combos on the side of Ukraine A to drop instead. They do go into the final break as we go into the last quarter of the map, so these players do see that score lead. We just need Ukraine A to not get too nervous and not break these full combos, and it looks like they have no plans of doing so, as they even continue to hold their high accuracies.
Yeah, but so far, Dinozev is still holding a 99% FC with his Nerves of Steel going into this ending section of the Nomad 5. Turbo 3, however, just broke and lost his recovery combo. So this pick is going to be shifting more and more to the side of Ukraine A. Arcanite's missing, however, but he did not have as strong of a combo compared to the other two members, so it is not as big of a deal for them.
Mistwave still holding on to that full combo, but unfortunately, just not enough without teammates supporting them. Shifter does drop that full combo, but with no time left in the map, it just will not matter. Ukraine A will win their pick with about 228k score lead.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate for Canada A because for any other team, their team score is very solid at 2 mil. However, Dinozev just decided to 99% act FC this map with a 1 mil score. So there's not much you can do about that except for just think about your picks for the next round, reset your mental, and just hope that you are gonna be able to do strong in your own picks.
Yeah, absolutely insane scores from Shifter on that 800k, Dinos on that 1 mil, and Mistwaves on that 900k. In against any other team, these scores would be insane. But unfortunately, it's just the best two teams in the tournament right now facing one another, and the 900k from Mistwaves is just not enough against Ukraine A.
Yeah, going to the next round of picks, are we going to see Canada A pick into their protects, or are they going to pick into something else instead?
It's getting to the point that I believe it would be very good for Canada A to start definitely considering their protect. If not this pick, then 100% the next pick. It's just a matter of if players are feeling comfortable on that protect, if they're feeling comfortable on another pick. Sometimes players can have insane scores and perform very, very well, but on match day, sometimes nerves can just eat you alive. Maybe a player doesn't feel good. Maybe a player just is unable to FC something that day. So it looks like Canada A is going into the DT1 pick, maybe feeling good about the fact that they did win the DT3. So going into this consistency style DT1, what do you think about this pick?
I do think this pick could be a good pick for Canada A because if they decide to win the DT1, Ukraine is going to be less and less inclined to pick their protect of a DT2 if Canada has a very solid score on it. So I do understand the reasoning for Canada A to pick this DT1. So potentially they could win this. Next round, Ukraine decides not to pick into their protect, and then Canada picks into their protect right after. Could be a very solid strategy for Canada A.
Yeah, this week the DTs are starting to get a little bit harder. The DT2s are slowly starting to get a little bit more into speed instead of just finger control. I say speed as in speed for the players at this SR and rank range. But DT1 is a little bit more tricky on the aim side, and there is a kind of like almost alt because of the BPM area towards the end of the map where there are just stacked notes in the left corner of the map. So looking to make sure that these players don't miss on that, they don't like drop accuracy, hoping that none of these players just like miss aim or get nerves and just drop in the middle of the map somewhere that they have never missed before. So hopefully going into this DT1 pick soon. And what do you think? Do you think that any like if Canada A is going to pull ahead convincingly with this pick?
I think that Canada A are going to be very confident going into this pick because they did win the DT3 earlier, despite the despite the Ukraine A DT2 protect. However, I like how you mentioned earlier the BPM because this DT1 is 240 BPM, which is definitely a very fast BPM for NWC players for a DT1. So we could potentially see some act drops, like you said, in the later sections, or we could see just players not being comfortable on 240 BPM aim.
as you say that, it does look like that Ukraine A may not be super comfortable, as Shifter and Dinozev do already drop their combos. It's not too important because it was below 200 combo, and Avocado does drop their combo as well, but that does mean that the early score lead is going over to the side of Canada A.
Yeah, the early round act advantage is going towards Canada A as well because they have a slightly higher act average. Shifter decides to break again, which is not what Ukraine wants to do, considering how now he's losing his chance to build that solid recovery combo early into the map. I say that, however, but Avocado decides to trade and break as well, so this pick could start slowly going back into the Ukrainian side. However, the act advantage on the Canada side is just preventing that for right now. So Ukraine is really hoping that the Canadian side decides to have some unwanted misses or unwanted act drops.
Mistwaves and Pocket Crumbs still holding on to their full combos as we do get into the middle of the map right now. Wangward dropping their combo, and it is currently not matched by anyone over the side of Canada A. They do go into this break, so all of these players can see everyone's current scores. They can see everyone's current accuracy, not accuracies. They can see the score lead that is over on the side of Canada A. Shifter is building up their recovery combo, Avocado as well, but currently there just is no major combo over on the side of Ukraine A that has support. Mistwaves does drop, Wangward dropped as well, but that is just not a large combo. So that score lead is still staying over the side of Canada A.
Yeah, Canada A, if nothing changes, will be looking to win this pick going into the last quarter of the map. Their act is just a lot more consistent compared to the Ukrainian side, and they just seem to be much more comfortable on this BPM and this slot compared to Ukraine. Dinozev earlier with some uncharacter misses, Shifter with a lot of misses as well, and Wingward, unfortunately, who's just unable to hold as strong of a combo compared to everybody else on the slot. So this is looking to be a very good pick for the Canada side, like I mentioned earlier, considering how they're about to win this pick. Could this deter Ukraine A from picking into their Protect DT2 right after, or are they going to still go into it and just hope that they can win on their strong suits?
Shifter does unfortunately miss on the very last run of the map. Avocado did get a very good recovery combo built up, and Canada A does convincingly win their DT1 pick. Now that we're getting into these last picks here, I am 100% expecting these teams to immediately go into their protects unless their protects just were bait, and if they actually don't believe that they can win their protects. So looking for Ukraine A to go into their DT2 pick, and it looks like they go into Hidden 3 instead, probably no longer convinced that they can win DT2 now that Canada A has picked and won both other maps in the DT pool. So Ukraine A is going into the Hidden 3, so they are going into the Tech map.
Yeah, considering how both teams earlier did do solid on the Nomad 4 pick, this could be a very solid pick for the Ukraine side, considering how they may just lost their confidence on their Protect DT2, having lost both the DT1 and the DT3 to Canada A. The Ukraine team also won Hidden 1 earlier, and they were a lot more comfortable on the Hidden compared to Canada A, so this could be a very smart pick for them.
This is the 4 Horsemen at 3 minutes 17 seconds long and 170 BPM, and is a custom mapped by Emaphistal for NWC. So thank you, Emaphistal, for mapping this. It is an insane map. I love it. And the fact that it's been picked by Ukraine A makes me want to believe that they like it just as much as I do. It's very easy to miss on some of these sliders. I do know that the aim was nerfed in the final version of the map. Probably also to help with the SR inflation that happened with the reword. But I'm curious to see who Canada A is pulling in for this map, because it looks like they cleared the entire roster and are probably thinking about it, as Ukraine A pulls in Shifter, and Dimple's currently trading, or being a trader and sitting on Ukraine A.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned thanking Amethystal for this Nomad, for this Hidden 3, I mean. But I also just like to give a thanks to Amethystal throughout the tournament entirely. Not only has he been staffing and reffing, he's also just been making multiple custom maps for this tournament. So thank you so much, Amethystal, for that. And while Canada are still deciding on their roster, I think that the Ukraine A side is definitely very apparent to be way more comfortable on this hidden pick compared to the Canadian pick, or the Canadian side.
As these teams think about what players they want to pull into the lobby, Dimple's just kind of bench forming over on the side of Ukraine A. You know, just seeing how he feels on the opposing team, maybe seeing if they want to betray Canada A. But jokes aside, I'm very curious to see how these teams are going to do. Going back and looking at the results from Nomad 4 earlier in this match, Canada A did win that pick, so I'm curious to see if maybe Ukraine A is just like super confident on this. Maybe that they know that they can triple FC it. Maybe they're sure that they can have higher accuracy. That point was very close, only like a 54k score difference. But I'm kind of curious to see how confident Ukraine A is going into this pick, or if perhaps Canada A can sweep in and win another tech pick.
I think that this timeout that Canada A is picking is definitely a very smart timeout. They can reset their nerves a little bit considering how the score is still tied at 4-4. Potentially this timeout could also be used as a distraction tactic against Ukraine A to make them more anxious going into this pick. However, I think the Canadian A side are still going to be doing very solid scores on this. Both teams have had really solid scores on every slot so far, despite losing, because these are just the two of the strongest, if not the strongest teams in the tournament so far.
There was a little bit of our ref Ike sneaking into the lobby and also sitting on the side of Ukraine A, but it looks like these teams are really thinking about who they want to put in the lobby. Um, do you have any like strong feelings on what the next pick might be as we wait? Maybe are you assuming that Canada A is also going to be going into their protect after this?
Possibly Canada might be going into the protect considering how this has not been picked yet. Maybe they're hoping to win this pick against the Ukrainian side, pick into the protect as their last pick and get a convincing win. Potentially, they're protecting the Nomad 6. Could just be a unpicked protect like the Ukraine side. Considering how so far in this match, they've been picking largely the DT and the Hard Rock slots, meaning the higher AR slots. So going right into a Nomad 6 reading a map right afterwards could potentially not be swinging in their favor momentum-wise. However, I could still see them doing it considering how it is to protect. So it'd be very interesting to see what Canada decides to pick next.
Looks like that we are finally getting into this hidden 3 pick. We have Pocket Crumbs, Mist Waves, and Ava Kodo over on the side of Canada A, and we have Shifter, Arknight, and Dinozev over on the side of Ukraine A. So, looking for these teams to build up their combos and build up their accuracy. On the beginning of this map, it is a little bit easier compared to the rest. Um, but getting into it, I am not expecting like a huge lead swing to either side. Both of these teams, I'm assuming, are going to look very comfortable on it. Getting right into it already, it looks like Pocket Crumbs does miss very early. It will not matter too much in the grand scheme of things, but it will mean that that early score lead does go over to the side of Ukraine A. They have some very good combos over on that side with Mist Waves with currently holding an SS.
Yeah, the early break from Pocket shouldn't matter too much in the grand scheme of things, considering how it was in like the first 50 to 100 notes. You just have to hope that that doesn't mess with the mental of Pocket Crumbs, considering how it is very high stakes right now. And if you look at his screen, there is some shakes on the sliders. However, that aside, the ACK advantage on the Ukrainian side is currently just eclipsing the ACK average on the Canadian side. So the 80k and growing score lead right now is definitely a testament of their skills and their nerve control. So it would be very interesting to see how the rest of this map plays out.
Avocato does break, and that will mean that the score lead does swing over closer and closer to the side of Ukraine A. Some of these players are dropping a little bit of accuracy on some of these triples going into these sliders, and that miss from Avocato is just not matched by anyone on the side of Ukraine A. All 3 players holding a full combo, so all of them look very confident. As we go into one of the breaks in this map, right in the middle, these players are going to see the score lead over on the side of Ukraine A. So now we're just hoping that none of these players get too nervous. Avocato is slowly starting to build up their recovery combo, and Canada A is definitely hoping for another miss or any miss from the side of Ukraine A, while Ukraine A is hoping that one of those full combos on the side of Canada A does drop.
Yeah, so far a very, very strong showing from the Ukrainian roster, considering that they're holding a triple FC going into the halfway point, or going after the halfway point of the map. Despite that, though, however, the Canadian A team score is still very, very solid, which is just a testament to, again, how strong both of these two teams are. Because against any other team, this Canadian score could potentially and definitely could be winning score. However, there's just not much you can do against a triple FC. So it would be very exciting to see how the rest of this map plays out.
No longer a triple FC, as well, I guess still a triple FC because the miss that Shifter had was Bancho. Thank you, Bancho. We love you so much. Ava Koto does have a recovery combo built up almost into 500 now. So Ava Koto is supporting those full combos over on the side of Canada A very well, and as I say, that does unfortunately drop it as we get into the last bit of this map, but with a triple FC over on the side of Ukraine A and pushing their score lead ever and ever higher, almost 600k now, unfortunately, there will be no time, and Ukraine A will win what just might be their last pick. So Canada A needs to pick something that they know they can win if they want to drag Ukraine A to tiebreaker. Triple S plus on the side of Ukraine A with a very impressive S plus from Mistwaves on the side of Canada A, but unfortunately it is just not enough.
Yeah, talk about an amazing team score though from Ukraine A. Having a triple FC this late into the match, with it being their last pick, just goes to show how well they are at controlling their nerves. Considering how they did win the hidden one convincingly earlier on in the match, potentially they went into this hidden three thinking, it's okay, we got this, we can win this, and they absolutely crushed it as a team. So going into the next round of picks, it'll be very interesting to see if Canada A is going to pick into their protect, or if they're going to pick into something else that they think they could be a lot more comfortable on. Because being this late into the match and having this high of a stakes going into a reading map that they may or may not be comfortable on because they haven't played anything similar could be a bad pick for Canada, or conversely, it could be a good pick for them because it could counter the Ukrainian A team well.
Yeah, I know that Canada A has at least one gimmick player. I am not like 100% knowledgeable on the rosters, but do you know if Ukraine A may have at least one dedicated gimmick player?
Well, going off the trend for not only this match, but all the matches so far, Dinozev seems to be a very strong player on the Ukrainian side, so he could potentially fill in as possibly not the dedicated gimmick player, but as a very strong supporting combo. Unfortunately, I am not too familiar with the side of Ukraine's team roster to know if they have a dedicated gimmick player or not. But if anything goes according to how they've been playing, they're going to be a very strong team regardless for this pick.
Perhaps the like idea behind Nomad 6 is like maybe the fact that both teams do have a very good strong gimmick player, but maybe it's the fact that this team is maybe worrying about like having to second or third man some players, because this map is very challenging, and as I mentioned earlier, it's been a hot topic that this map has also been pulled in 60 World Cup in qualifiers this year. So if these teams didn't have time, or simply didn't like this map, or didn't like pour time into it, especially if they are not a gimmick player, then it could be very challenging. It does look like Canada A does go into their protect, so I am very curious to see if Canada A is going to convincingly win this pick, or if maybe Ukraine A has something up their sleeve.
Yeah, like you said, potentially Ukraine could have something up their sleeve, which may be a reason why they have not picked this so far. And they're going to hopefully bait Canada A into picking their protect just to win this convincingly. However, that could also not be the case. Canada A could be picking this, win convincingly, and then go into tiebreaker, in which tiebreaker could honestly go either way. But with how amazingly solid both of these teams are so far, I wouldn't be surprised if Canada A goes into tiebreaker, or if Ukraine A decides to win this match.
Getting into Canada A's Protect, Nomad 6, Lover Girl, 2 minutes 40 seconds long, so not terribly long, 176 BPM, but the biggest stat for this map is the AR7. We did have to put a recommended offset on the sheet this week for this map, which I believe they said that they recommend -15. So none of these players uh, are sight reading, so hopefully they like used that as a guideline and adjusted their own offsets. Because clearly, if the map poolers think so, this map definitely needs an offset. We are getting into the pick, and so far the easiest part has passed, and we are now getting into the rhythmic part, getting into the rhythm changes, and the early act lead is going to get that early score lead over to the side of Ukraine A. And as I say that, there is an early miss from Shifter that hopefully should not matter too much.
But yeah, this Nomad 6, however, is going to be very unlike any of the other slots that have been kicked in this match so far, considering how the Hidden 2 was banned. So there goes the potential of a slight reading a slot. The Fremont 2 was also not picked, so there goes the chance for, again, another reading slot. So it'd be very interesting to see how both of these teams go into approaching this reading pick.
These Canada A players do seem to be a little bit nervous, perhaps, as they do start dropping a little bit of accuracy, which is going to bump that score lead even more over to the side of Ukraine A. Shifter and Arknight do both drop their combos, which does matter a lot more as we are pushing into the middle section of the map, so that score lead is slowly shrinking and going to swing over to the side of Canada A, as Arknight and Shifter are struggling to get a recovery combo beneath them. Pocket Crumbs does miss, so there is at least one trade, but Vunistic having that full combo, and as I say that, unfortunately drops it, traded by Arknight. Dinozev and Avokodo, the only two in the lobby left with any meaningful combos.
Yeah, halfway into this map, it just seems everybody is feeling the nerves and the weight of this slot and is dropping their combos left, right, and center. However, the score lead ever so slightly is still going towards the side of Canada A. Dinozev, however, just broke his combo, so there goes the last meaningful combo on the side of the Ukraine roster. Avocado is approaching with a very nice, solid recovery combo, so again, this pick could go towards the Canada A side on them winning their protect. However, with only a quarter of the map left to go, this could go either way. Runistic and Shifter are both missing as well.
That full combo reset over on the side of Ukraine A is exactly what Canada A was hoping for, as that score lead is now up into 130, 140, 150k score lead and growing, as Avokodo has a 400 recovery combo with Pocket Crumbs on a 300 recovery combo, and is currently just not matched by a single player over on the side of Ukraine A. Shifter and Vunistic dropping their combos once again, but as we get into this final section of the map, that will be a point for Canada A on their protect, and we will be heading to tiebreaker.
Yeah, tiebreaker is definitely going to be very exciting for this match, considering how even both teams have been this match so far. Both teams playing out of their minds realistically, because even on the picks that they've been losing, they've been very, very solid team scores throughout. Again, on the Hidden 3 earlier, Ukraine A might have tripled FC. However, the score on Canada A was still extremely solid, and against any other team, they probably would have won it. So this tiebreaker is definitely going to be a very hype tiebreaker to watch, considering how, again, it honestly could go either ways. I can see both teams winning this. And so it really just depends to how well they can hold their nerves, how well they can hold their combos, how well they can manage their act, and hopefully make it through to the next round.
We are going into this tiebreaker lockout at 5 minutes 52 seconds long, so you know, your typical long tiebreaker. Once again, another map mapped by Amethyst for this tournament, so once again, thank you, Amethyst. I once again love this map. It is very fun. I'm curious to see what team this might favor. It is a very tech style map, and we did see both teams win these tech picks. There was a Canada A win on that Nomad 4 and a Ukraine A win on the Hidden 3. So truly, it is kind of just up to whether or not these teams can hold combo, if they can get a hold of their nerves, if they can hold accuracy. So I am very curious. I'm very, very curious to see how this tiebreaker is going to go. Both of these teams are so good. All of these players have performed so well this tournament. So I'm very excited to see how this tiebreaker is going to turn out.
Yeah, almost 6 minute long tiebreaker is definitely not going to be an easy tiebreaker to play. However, both teams were really solid on the tech picks, like you said, with Ukraine winning the Hidden 3 and Canada winning the Nomad 4. Earlier on in the match as well, the Fremont 3 being a swing alt map was also picked, and both teams did really solid on that. So going into this alt tech tiebreaker, probably both teams are not going to be struggling too much considering their comfort on not just tech but also alt as well. So again, it really is just going to be how well can you handle these nerfs going in.
I will say I'm not expecting any mods on this tiebreaker unless there is like a hidden preference player. Now that we're in semifinals, people aren't really like just trying easy on tiebreaker for fun or just trying to see if they can hard rock it. This is a tiebreaker that can be pretty challenging to act if you are not very great at or very comfortable on alt. And I'm very curious to see if we're going to see any full combos. There is a very tricky alt spaced section right at the beginning of the map, so I am curious to see if these teams are going to hold a full combo through that beginning section. I know that if they are comfortable on the map, they are most likely able to hold a full combo through the rest of the map, but I am hoping to see these players definitely hit that alt space section right at the start.
Yeah, holding a full combo on this map is definitely going to be very hard, and I'm going to be very surprised and excited if any member on any team is going to be able to hold a full combo. However, given the absolute amazing play that both of these teams have played throughout this tournament and this match so far, I would not be surprised if either one of these teams has a full combo or 2 or 3. So it really is going to be a very exciting tiebreaker to watch. Dinozev coming in to be the Ukrainian A carry as always, followed by the core 3 of Canada A having very, very solid scores, maybe not FCing everything, but their collective team score being a very, very scary thing to go against.
It looks like these teams have finally settled on their rosters. We have Ava Kodo, Mist Waves, and Pocket Crumbs in on the side of Canada A for this tiebreaker, with Shifter, Arknight, and Dinozev on the side of Ukraine A going to play this tiebreaker. I am very curious to see how these players are going to perform on it. Very fun map, almost 6 minutes long, so they definitely need to make sure that they don't get too nervous.
Yeah, nerves are definitely going to be something going into a tiebreaker to consider, and considering how this tiebreaker is definitely a very long tiebreaker, even for tiebreakers, almost being 6 minutes long. So again, it'll be very, very interesting to see how this plays out.
Getting into it, none of these players are playing with any mods, which I completely understand. It's not exactly the easiest map to hit in, and I can only imagine that it's probably a little bit of a nightmare to play on Hard Rock, but as we get into it, there is no like large, meaningful lead right now. We have Dinozev Arknight on the 99% accuracies with Shifter on a 97, we have Ava Kodo on the 97, Mist Waves on a 97, almost 96, and Pocket Crumbs on the 93, so there's a little bit of a score lead going over to the side of Ukraine A just based on accuracy alone as we start on the slow section of this tiebreaker.
Yeah, ACK is definitely going to be something that's very important for this. However, considering just how long that this tiebreaker is going to be, holding a full combo is going to be very, very important. Even if your ACK trails behind just a little bit, if you can somehow manage to FC with a slightly lower ACK on the tiebreaker, that's still going to be an insane score and can be very, very important for your team score. However, that being said, going into about the 1/5-ish section of the map, both teams have very, very solid collective team act, with the current act advantage favoring the side of Ukraine. However, that being said, both Shifter and Arknights have a double break on this section, which is going to be exactly not what Ukraine wants to have, which means that the Canadian A side is going to be getting that score advantage now.
Almost a full lobby reset on that spaced alt section that I did mention before we started the map. Dinozev, Arknight, and Shifter all have lost their combos on the side of Ukraine A, and Ava Kodo does hold through that section and is still holding a 600 combo as we continue through almost the fourth of the map, which means that that score lead is going to start heading over to the side of Canada A. These players are still starting to build recovery combos. We have Pocket Crumbs and Mist Waves matching Shifter, Arknight, and Dinozev, but Ava Kodo holding onto that full combo is definitely doing Canada A some massive favors right now.
Yeah, if you're rooting for the side of Canada A, you definitely want Avocado to be holding this full combo. Multiple breaks in this lobby have just come out again, despite all of the comfortable attacks on the Ukrainian side with Dinozev. His current supporting combo is just not enough to match Avocado, and you really want Avocado to continue holding on to this FC, which looks like he is able to do well, considering not only is he holding the FC, he also has the second highest, or one of the highest acts in this entire lobby so far right now.
Currently, we have Pocket Chromes matching Dinozev on the side of Ukraine A. We have Arc Knight matching Mistwaves, and currently the closest match for Avocado's full combo, going now into the 1000 combo, is Shifter or Dinozev. So they do have pretty convincing recovery combos built up, but with no one to match Avocado and still holding that FC at 96% accuracy as we go into the half of the map, that score lead is still steadily staying over onto the side of Canada A. The accuracies, however, are not letting them run away with it, as Pocket Crumbs and Mistwaves kind of struggling a little bit on the more ulti sections, dropping accuracy. Shifter does drop their recovery combo, which is going to allow Canada to get a little bit more breathing room, allow them to pull that score lead a little bit over closer to them, as they do now get over 100k score lead. But Dinozev and Arc Knight are building up very convincing recovery combos, but they are still unfortunately matched by Pocket Crumbs and Mistwaves. So they are hoping that one of those break, and they are definitely praying for Avocado to break. But right now, they have no intentions of breaking, as they still hold on to their full combo.
Yeah, I just want to applaud Avocado right now for being able to hold an FC about 3/4 into the match, because the scores from both the Ukrainian side and the Canadian side are all very, very good. I was just about to say how Dinozev is having a very solid score despite not having the FC. However, he unfortunately does break, which if you're on the side of Ukraine, this is not what you want. Another break coming from Arc Knights, and unfortunately, this might just be a very unfortunate hit to the mental on the side of Ukraine. That being said, again, Shifter breaks again, and Avocado still holding the FC.
Another full reset over on the side of Ukraine A, as Pocket Crumbs now pulling into that 1000 combo. Avocado still holding on to that full combo. Mistwaves also building up another very convincing recovery combo at 800, and there is just zero match over on the side of Ukraine A. They are currently running away with that score lead, going up into 400k. There is a miss over on Mistwaves, immediately matched by Arc Knight. There is just no one to match Pocket Crumbs and Avocado over on the side of Canada A. We are going into the last section of the map, and there is currently nothing that Ukraine A can do. They are praying for a miss from Pocket Crumbs and Avocado, and these players are just so confident, so locked in, that it is just looking like it is not going to happen.
Yeah, Avocado is playing out of his mind right now, still holding the FC with the highest act in the lobby as well at 97%, which is just absolutely insane. Even without the score of Avocado, both Mistwaves and Pocket Crumbs have been performing very solid on the side of Canada A, with Pocket Crumbs having a 1.4k supporting combo, and despite Mistwaves breaking earlier, also had a very solid combo. Unfortunately for the side of Ukraine A, despite them having a nice recovery combo right now, there is just nothing they can do against the combos and the FC by Avocado. Amazing play by Avocado over here, FCing the tiebreaker in the semi-final pools. Absolutely insane. Just want to reiterate that again.
Very, very, very convincing scores on the side of Canada A. Avocado with that S rank full combo 97% accuracy on the tiebreaker, which is going to beyond secure them the win over Ukraine A. Canada A will be continuing on in the upper bracket, with Ukraine A unfortunately falling down into the lower bracket. Congratulations to Canada A for winning. What an amazing match. What an awesome tiebreaker. This was such a fun match to watch. Super close the entire way through, but with that full combo from Avocado and that insane recovery combo from Pocket Crumbs, there was just nothing that Ukraine A could do. Very, very convincing win from Canada A. Congratulations.
Yeah, I just want to say congratulations to Canada as well. This has been a very exciting match so far to commentate and cast and watch. And the tiebreaker was just everything you wanted to see. Massive supporting combos on both sides, really solid play from both sides, really fun song, a custom tiebreaker mapped by the one, the only Amethystal. And then on top of that, you had a Canada A FC with 97% AC as well on the tiebreaker. Absolute cinema to watch, and they definitely deservingly deserve to go to winners finals. And whoever Ukraine A is facing a losers bracket as well definitely has a tough task secured for them, because Ukraine A is not a tough team to beat, and they only narrowly lost to seed 1 of this tournament.
Thank you once again, Amethyst for mapping that tiebreaker for us in NWC. Canada A, like Ken said, will be moving on in the upper bracket, but Ukraine A is not out. This was an upper bracket match, which means that they will be going down into the losers bracket. Canada A's next matchup will be Australia, so it will be Seed 1 versus Seed 7. In the losers bracket, there is a match that will be Spain A versus United States A in the lower bracket, which will be Seed 6 Spain A versus Seed 2 United States A, and whoever wins that match will be going against Ukraine A. So very excited to see the results of that match, and I'm sure that Ukraine A definitely are probably feeling a little bit down about losing, especially on the fact that it was a tiebreaker, but they are not out of the tournament yet, and they still have a lot to look forward to in this tournament.
Yeah, even for Ukraine losing this match right here, it was definitely a very strong performance for them regardless. Even if they lost, they are still a very, very strong team. Played absolutely out of their minds today, and honestly, whoever they're facing next week has a very tough task ahead of them, trying to usurp this Ukraine side.
Once again, congratulations to Canada A. Very convincing match, very close match, very fun to watch, and I hope that everyone watching had as much fun as I did. Once again,
Yeah.
also congratulations to Ukraine A. Unfortunate that they lost, but not out yet, and they have a lot to look forward to in the lower bracket of the tournament.
Yeah, thank you everyone again for tuning into the stream. I had a really fun time casting this match. This match was definitely a great watch for everybody involved, and I hope everybody has a good rest of their day.
Thank you, Aiki, for reffing. Thank you, Satyan, for streaming. And this was NWC26. We will see you guys next time.